The Citizen Mike Show. News. Commentary. Interviews. Citizen Mike Show starts now.
Welcome to the Citizen Mike Show. Thanks for tuning in. We do appreciate it. My name is Mike Brodinsky. This is the episode for May 4, 2017. On my right, the one and only editor of the Record Journal, internationally acclaimed Ralph Tomaselli. And my 3-year-old nephew was photographed watching last week's show.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's so
Excellent.
from Toronto.
We've got another viewer.
From Toronto, Canada.
Excellent.
So that's the latest
International.
The latest international connection. So there was this story that appeared in the Record Journal about a year ago, reporting on an event that happened last year, and it starts this way. Well, it didn't start this way, but it says the event was put together by the Wallingford Jubilee 350 Committee, a group responsible for organizing a week-long celebration of the town's history in 2020. The committee is co-chaired by Bob Devaney Jr. and former town councilor Christine Mansfield. Don't you know they happen to be in the studio? What a coincidence, guys.
Very good.
Thanks for coming on to the Citizen Mike Show. Welcome back, Christine, and Bob. Welcome for the first time.
Thank you.
So this Wallingford Jubilee Committee has been cooking for a while now. Start from the beginning and tell us what's going on and what can we expect with this.
Mayor Bill formed the committee about a year and a half ago, and this is to celebrate our 350th town anniversary. The founding in 2020 will be 350 years from 1670. And so we have a committee of hundreds that are starting to form and building on plans. We're a paperless committee, so again, we're under the auspices of the town, but we're using a website and the technology of G Drive and Google, and we've set up a paperless committee where we can correspond using the best of technology. We have our headquarters at the Hubcap. Very excited to continue forming and developing ideas to celebrate this great town. And history defines itself 350 years ago up until today. So from the past right into today and into the future, we have a legacy to preserve and build upon the great tenure that we've had in former Jubilees.
Give us a flavor as to what we would see at 2020. What are we looking forward to here?
Well, first of all, Mike and Ralph, thanks for having us. I was very fortunate to be part of the 300th and the 325th of Wallingford many years ago with Johanna Fishbein and the rest of us in the 325th. But the 350th is going to be a very special week. We used a little bit of the template of the 300th and the 325th to accomplish our goals of the old and the new, and more or less based on the new. I mean, there's a lot of different ideas going with a parade to kick off the 350th and a tremendous ball to finish it off, and not even got to mention a little bit more about fireworks on a Friday night, right in the center of town.
Ralph is looking forward to wearing his tuxedos. Is it tuxedo ball?
Oh, Ralph, we're all set. We have a ticket already set for you.
Oh, gosh. That gives me something to look forward to. I got till 2020.
But this is a tremendous week. I mean, we've got committees working on the descendants of Wallingford, where we have people from the Chamber of Commerce working with all our industry in town. Like I said, there's going to be a ball. There's going to be a block dance. There's going to be a tremendous amount of sporting activities that are going to be happening through the entire week. And we want people that really haven't been in town a long time to come in and really envelop themselves and see what Wallingford was like back in those certain days. It's going to be a tremendous celebration.
I have a historical question, and I didn't get a chance to ask him.
We didn't discuss this
No,
on
I
camera.
know, but I'm always interested in history, and
All right.
so I'll give it a shot because Bob, of course, has been overseeing the cemetery for
Sure.
so many years. Is there a central figure that's connected with Wallingford's founding? Because as I think about it, I'm not sure that one comes to mind, although of course, Lyman Hall is always very prominent. So is there a central figure?
Ralph, I've known you since you started at the Record
Yeah,
Journal.
right.
I think you know that.
Right.
But, and of all people, you should know that Moses White Beach.
Well, I don't want to...
Oh, no, come on, Ralph. You should know that.
Right.
He started the Associated Press.
Right, Moses Y. Beach was not at the founding, certainly.
No, but he was part of one.
But I was really, about 5 years ago, through Bob's, with some help from Bob, I learned that Moses Y. Beach was a very prominent newspaper man in his time. That's why the school was named after him. He also, when he retired from the newspaper business, and Moses Y. Beach was very involved with founding the Associated Press, which I had no idea about.
Yeah.
He was he became a benefactor of education. If you go over to the cemetery, you can kind of tell how wealthy people were, in some ways, by the size of their monument. And Moses Y. Beach had just about the biggest monument.
Yes, he did.
So I've digressed in keeping with that. Is there a figure that's central to the anniversary?
You know, I think it's a cornerstone there, because you're touching on the fact that there are so many footprints, there's so many pieces of the cornerstone of Wallingford. We've put a moments committee together, and we've tasked all the historical groups to work together. And again, this project is uniting every part of this fabric of town, new and mature.
And like Christine said, the Moments Committee
Yeah.
it's going to be very special. We have the Historical Society, the Johnson Museum, and we also have the Board of Education getting involved with 350 moments of Wallingford. 350 special moments. The town being 350 years old, I'm sure we can find more than that.
Now, are these moments presentations? What are the
They're
moments
going to
that...
be literally moments, points in time. They could be the founding of a school, it could be Moses Y. Beach's birthday, it could be any number. They're going to compile a list. We're using Google Drive. Every entity, including the library, will be compiling this, will prioritize it, and based on the category, that's going to become the cornerstone to then feature and build dramatization through video, the arts. Mary Ellen Kingsling Eccles will be doing the play, as you can imagine, and reinterpreting moments, pieces of it, all of it. And then all of the rest of our committees can take this as the backbone to solidify it. This eventually will become curriculum as a template that the Board of Education will then brainstorm with their curriculum experts and build some type of curriculum based on the state mandates for the year 2020. So this is a very comprehensive opportunity. We're starting literally with a list, and we're going to prioritize that.
Is this event spreading all over the downtown when it finally comes to be in 2020? Or is it
It's going to
like in
spread
one...
through the entire town,
Okay,
okay?
yeah.
Everywhere.
Every sector.
Do you have a specific date or a week yet? What's that?
Be June 20th, 2020
Yep.
to the 27th. The 27th would be the ball.
Every day we'll have a theme. Again, we're picking up on the successes and the best practices of former Jubilee
Of the
committees,
past,
where we have each day we'll have a representative theme. There'll be events planned. A number of the committees and chair people have already been established. We're always looking for more volunteers. Not every job is filled. That's
get to that.
important for the public.
Let's get to that. If someone is watching and they're now inspired
Yes.
and they haven't been inspired before, what do they do if they want to join in and help?
Our website, we are always online 24/7, wallingford350.org. We also have the hubcap, which of course is located on Center Street as our headquarters, and we have materials there for registration sign-up. Whether you like a paper form to fill out, we're a town entity. We have a mailbox set up at the town hall, 45 South Main Street. You can use that to mail to us. You can also call us. And again, we have a variety of different mechanisms to talk to.
We're both extremely accessible, and we're,
Okay.
we have people calling us all the
But
time.
do you actually have tasks for people to do, work to do?
Absolutely.
Because we just don't want to sit in a chair. You know,
Absolutely.
we don't want to do
We
that.
have-
We
we
want to
have
get our
work.
hands dirty. You got-
It's going to take many people to put together the parade.
Okay.
The parade is going to be huge. That's going to be the kickoff of the 2020. And then, of course, the culmination of the ball.
Okay.
But the entire week is also going to be involved with sporting activities and so forth.
Now, I don't know if, did you happen to bring any placard or any advertisement or anything?
Speaking of that,
You did, you
Yes,
rascals. Be bold, show it right up to that camera.
this placard has to do with a car show that's going to happen on the 24th of June. First time on Center Street, from Whittlesey Avenue to Colony Street. Car show is going to have the Wallingford Street Riders and new cars on the other side. Now, all the car dealers in Wallingford have joined together with our organization to bring this forward, and you're going to have brand-new cars on the north side of the street and all the street rods on the other side of the street.
Okay, final question, and then I want to, is there a keynote speaker, like George Washington or Abraham Lincoln or something like that coming up to?
We can't let that out right now.
Okay, fair
More
enough. Work in progress.
surprises, more surprises, Mike. We can't tease all of it today. All we
can't
can
throw
say,
everything out now for you.
every single year, there will be an epic event. Now, part of this is testing out some logistics.
Yeah.
Soft piloting, soft rollouts, but you're going to have a surprise every year.
Ralph,
Stay
how
tuned, Mike.
excited are you on a scale of 1 to 10 now?
Well, I'm.
Are you off the
as can
charts? You
tell,
look off the
I'm
charts.
excited about history. I always am, and I know there'll be a lot. There'll be a
Yes.
There'll be a lot of
Absolutely.
historical aspects to this. I'll find out about the town I live in, so that'll be good.
Good. I want to change gears a little bit and sort of go off topic. You are involved in a neighborhood watch.
Yes.
Christine, tell us, why did you do that and what's going on with that?
Sure. We're over in the High Hill area, and so we have 13 streets, and you're on one of them,
Yeah.
where we were stricken a year ago by a rash of car burglaries and break-ins, and so we had a lot of neighbor interest, and so we formed a neighborhood watch. And working in partnership with Wallingford Police, the community policing effort partnered up with us. We had a meeting. We had 95 people at the first meeting, and so we're meeting quarterly. In order to qualify for grants and set up signage and such, you have to meet formally 3 times. And so we've done that. So now we can apply for grants that can help us with safety training in the community, building out risk management, prevention from crime. And I can't say enough about our police department. They're just
Yeah.
wonderful.
So the takeaway from this, and one of the reasons why I want to at least mention it, although it's not a
Right.
segment on the show, is that if there are other neighborhoods that feel they need something like this, they have an avenue, and I guess Christine contact the police department, I assume, and they would help? Is that
Absolutely.
how that would work?
The community police department is wonderful.
Okay.
And again, that phone number is right there online in your phone book, and they will be glad to help you and brainstorm solutions.
Yeah, okay, that sounds good.
Mike,
Yeah, yeah.
excuse me. I'm
No,
sorry,
go ahead.
But I just, right before I came over here for the show, I was reading yet another story about, more than 30 car break-ins in Berlin
Yeah.
over the last couple months. And these stories have been persistent for the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And it never ceases to amaze me that the common thread in all these towns and all these stories is vehicles are unlocked.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I just have trouble getting my mind around that. So,
Yeah.
lock your car.
Well, neighborhood
important.
Yeah.
neighborhood watch is a good thing. And then, Christine, you're involved in a leadership forum through the school system. I haven't heard about that, so I just wanted a quick report on
Yeah,
what that is.
I chair the Sheehan PTAC Association, our parent group, with our teachers, and the parents, we did a walkthrough, a piece of strategy came out of central office, and through that brainstorming, we identified an opportunity to present more leadership training for the students. So we passed that on, and Sheehan administration and teachers rolled it out, and they presented it to the school and did leadership training for emerging leaders. And then also, every class had an assembly, wonderfully attended and positive feedback on leadership training. So again, supplements to the existing curriculum, but we just found it a fabulous execution. Can't say enough about that Sheehan team.
Bob, you kind of run the Center Street Cemetery. All is going well?
Everything's going great.
Okay. Thanks
Yes.
for coming on the Citizen Mike Show. We appreciate it. Good luck, over the next few years to get this going. Ralph will be there
Yeah, absolutely.
in his tux
Well, we'll see.
at the ball. Annie and I, we just
Right.
boogie woogie. I don't do the ball, but we'll see.
Mike, can I invite you both in your tuxes for the Holy Trinity Bazaar?
Well, it wouldn't hurt to try.
Because we are featuring for the first time in Wallingford a 65-foot Ferris wheel, and again, VIP seating for the Ferris wheel for the first time ever. 65 feet, double the height, double the fun.
Let's leave that as the
Yes,
final,
we'll leave that.
as the final word,
Right.
You're
as
invited.
the final
I
tease.
can't wait to take pictures.
Thanks
you.
for coming on the
Thank you.
show, and good luck. Well, that was a good conversation about the Jubilee 350, something to look forward to. We were joking around a little bit about the ball and tuxedos, but it sounds like fun.
Yeah, and they're putting a lot of work
Put a
into
lot
it,
of
you
work
can
into
tell.
it, and I hope they get some volunteers
Right.
and more volunteers. And
Right.
it is time for the moment everyone in Wallingford has been
Right.
waiting for, because they want to hear what you have to say
Mm-hmm.
about the story of the week.
Thanks, Mike.
You're welcome, Ralph.
Mike,
Yes,
the story of the week
yes.
is headlined, "Former Choate Headmasters Resign as Life Trustees in Wake of Investigation." And it's a story that I think, unfortunately, has not only been covered by the Record Journal, but has almost put Wallingford on the map of the news, so to speak. It's gotten a lot of national attention.
New York Times, for one?
New York Times, for one.
Yeah.
As I was going on my phone, and I was amazed the national websites that picked up reports of it. The article starts off, in the wake of a recent investigation indicating several former Choate Rosemary Hall administrators failed to report sexual abuse of children to authorities dating back to the 1960s, former Choate headmasters Charles Day and Edward Shanahan have resigned as life trustees of the school. There's a quote here from a Choate spokeswoman: "We thank Mr. Day and Mr. Shanahan for their contributions to the school, and we believe their resignations are important steps in our community's healing process." And that's Choate spokeswoman Lorraine Connolly. One other thing I wanted to mention was that alumni had begun petitioning the school to remove Day and Shanahan shortly before they turned in their resignations.
Yeah, now, this position as life trustee
Right.
is an honorary
It's an honorary
position, so, yeah. I want to ask you what you know, if anything, about the reporting of the story, how difficult it was to report. Was Choate forthcoming? Was it just any unusual challenges, given the fact that, Choate is a powerful force in the community, it's a sensitive topic, things like that?
Choate was very forthcoming about the report.
Okay.
And I don't think the reporting has been difficult. In fact, I'd say that there have been much more minor issues in the past involving Choate
Yeah.
where the reporting was difficult. But that was a decision that Choate made as a part of a strategy.
Yeah.
I don't mean to, they're entitled to their strategy in terms of the public relations of this story.
There was this lengthy report, I think it went to 40 to 50 pages,
Yeah.
that Choate commissioned. I think it was a law firm that
Right.
has a specialty in this area.
Mm-hmm.
They put out the report. I found something on page 41
Yeah.
that I
Yeah.
wanted to read to you and the viewers, and it sort of exemplifies one of the problems that institutions are facing. It goes like this: Choate did not report the assault to any government authorities at the time. I guess we should, let me just stop here and remind
Right.
our viewers, everyone I think probably knows, going back in history to the 60s, some Choate staff was accused of sexual assaults
Absolutely.
or improper conduct with students. So that's the context of this.
Right.
Choate did not report the assault, and when I say the assault, they're going through various cases in this report.
Right.
And there's commentary or there's reporting, I guess, on each individual case. So I'm taking one of these cases
Right.
that the authors of the report are talking about. Shanahan said that he was usually guided by parents' wishes regarding whether to make such a report to government authorities, the police, right?
Right.
In our conversations with student 22 and her parents, they generally commended the school on its handling of the situation, but with hindsight, believe that the incident should have been reported to authorities. Student 22's parents recalled being concerned about their daughter's privacy, but did not recall discussing with the school whether the assault should be reported. So the issue which we're seeing society-wide is sexual assaults, whether it's on athletic teams,
Yeah.
and the issue is, should the victim, the student, report it and maybe risk getting ostracized or kicked
Right.
off the team or getting the beloved coach in trouble? So
Right.
many times we're learning they don't. In the military, they're having the same big problem. Thousands of sexual assaults in the military. Some are reported. I think more and more they're being reported, but everything I've read says that the sexual assaults in the military are underreported, probably at schools. And here we go. I certainly don't blame the parents for wanting to keep their child's name out of the papers. However, I think the police are very sensitive, and we're sensitive to keeping minors' names out of this. I think they could have worked something out, and yet the predator went on to teach another day. Just the problem I don't have the answer to. but your
No.
thoughts on it.
Well, my thought, your
Yeah.
your point about victims being
Yeah.
worried about being embarrassed to report being victimized is a good one, and it does exist. But the other issue that really jumps out on this Choate story is that in the public sector at least, or at least outside of Choate, if a 17-year-old student walks into a principal's office and says they've been sexually assaulted by a staff member, there's no, and we read other warrants, there's no hesitation about what to do next. It's a criminal matter.
Yep.
You call the police. There's not consultation with anybody. And that was what is really different about this Choate story. And I understand as you read the report, they're trying to add in, well, you know, Mr. Shanahan consulted with the parents who were generally happy about how your role as an administrator when a crime is reported to you is to call the police department.
Have it properly
And
investigated.
in fact, state law clearly says that people like principals and there are others who are considered mandated reporters, they don't have a choice. If they don't report, they face criminal charges themselves. The question that, at least in my own mind, is not fully answered by all this openness from Choate is there were people who I believe were mandated to report and didn't report. And what's going to happen to them? Now, in the case of 2 retired headmasters, they've been forced to give up a ceremonial position. In some people's eyes, that's not a whole lot.
It's not a whole lot in my view also.
Right. What we're talking about is at least 12 faculty members over a period of 50 years that they were aware of, and apparently multiple administrators inside that institution didn't follow the law. And are they going to pay a price?
Based on my reading so far, it doesn't look like it.
No, it doesn't. It
Yeah.
doesn't.
Well, just a final rhetorical question as
Sure.
a matter of policy here. So who should have the final decision whether this gets reported? Is it the parents? Is it the institution, whatever,
Right.
public or private? As soon as or is it the state legislature? It's a trigger that you can't not pull when you learn about a sexual assault on a minor.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's an automatic. You've just got
Right, and
to do it.
it's not that any of us aren't empathetic to a parent. You're in charge, like Mr. Shanahan was, you're in charge of all the students.
Yeah.
And when you don't report something to the police, you now have placed other young people in danger. So that's why I might feel exactly how these parents feel, but it's for professionals to almost rise above those things.
Yeah. As a matter of criminology, which I
Right.
don't know a lot
No.
about, but I have read that the greatest deterrent to crime, and this would be, included, is the fear of apprehension.
Mm-hmm.
So if a perpetrator, I'll use that word, if a perpetrator knows that if he or she engages in this kind of conduct, there's an automatic trigger, the police are going to be notified,
Absolutely.
and there's going to be investigation. Maybe that's an additional deterrent, rather than the old style. Maybe they can game the system and get a new job and agree to resign and move on. Maybe that in the perpetrator's minds thinks that they think that maybe they can get away with this, where if they know automatic police investigation, maybe that's a bigger deterrent. I don't know.
I agree.
Just raising it.
But it wasn't there at Choate.
No.
It wasn't. Can you imagine
Yeah.
if this was 12 students abused in the Wallingford public school system over a 50-year period, and this same narrative was shown to the public? I
Yeah.
mean, they would be calling for
Blood.
blood.
Speaking of budgets,
Right.
Hartford is in turmoil as to what to do about the state budgets, and that has thrown some cities and towns into turmoil and a doubt. What do they do? What's the timing of the timing of their budget votes. And we learned from the Record Journal, I think it was Tuesday, May 2nd, that Southington's council voted to delay a vote on the budget, hoping things would firm up and become more clear. In Hartford, Jesse Buchanan wrote in part, Southington town leaders say they will likely delay a budget vote until June so they can get a more accurate picture of how much funding Southington can expect from the state. Budget proposals from Governor Malloy could cost Southington and similar towns millions in state aid. Unsure whether those proposals would pass a state legislature, town leaders develop budgets with contingencies for a shortfall, so on and so forth. In the same paper, Meriden voted to delay adoption of the budget, and so I ask, maybe Wallingford should do the same thing. I don't know. What do you think?
I do, and I think
Yeah.
what's changed is those meetings, the Southington meeting was on Monday, and the Meriden meeting I was on Tuesday. And I think over the weekend, Governor Malloy and the legislators got even more bad news about revenue
Right,
estimates.
that's right.
And so I think what happened was that any promises that state legislators had been making on the side to local town managers, mayors, they had been saying, and we've had stories where superintendents checked and said, well, this would happen. I think that all got a little shaky when the revenue estimates came
Yeah.
in. And so like this teacher pension fund, which everybody thought was off the table, the teacher pension fund contribution, which I think everybody thought was off the table.
That the towns may have to pay out of their own general fund.
I'm
Yeah,
not,
yeah.
So I just think that there were some new numbers that came in that would make it wise for everybody to put the brakes on things.
So on the pros and cons, and we just chat about that a little bit. I mean, one advantage, obviously, is if you can wait and Hartford does come up with a final plan, you can adjust your budget and maybe avoid some unnecessary taxation.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to know. The disadvantage, I suppose there is some uncertainty among taxpayers as to when am I going to get my tax bill?
Right.
Am I going to be put in a technical default
Right.
situation if I get it too late?
Right.
But I think town leaders are very sensitive to that. And they would pick a fish or cut bait date. So they wouldn't get any of the taxpayers in, any sort of trouble whatsoever. Plus, I think there is some cushion built into Wallingford's second Tuesday of May charter provision and the date mortgage holders and banks are expecting their tax payments. I think there is a little bit of fudge factor there. As far as when the tax bills would go out, I think that's got to just be discussed with a tax collector. When do you absolutely need to know how much lead time do you need to get tax bills out? Do you need 1 week, 10 days, 2 weeks, 3? And let's just get that out and push it to the end, and maybe something will happen that benefits taxpayers. I don't know. But that's how I see it. It seems that both Meriden and Southington have gotten around their charters with legal arguments from their law departments. I have no comment on, but whether it's a good opinion or not. But it works, and no one objects to that.
Yeah.
So we on this show, Ralph, have never mentioned, I don't think, ever since we've started this, the pension. Wallingford's consolidated pension plan.
Right.
I don't think, and one of the reasons is no one understands it. It's very complicated. I'm not sure anyone is interested in it. But as years have gone on, the town's contribution to the consolidated pension plan, which appears in the budget as a line item, has grown and grown and grown. So I went back just a few years, and you could go back to, I think, I actually didn't bring that number, but it was like 2011, it was like 3 million and something. In 2011, I'm pretty sure that's the year. And now the mayor's budget proposes something like 7.2 million. So you grow in 6 years, more or less, from 3 million and change to 7 million and change. It becomes more and more noticeable.
Do you still get, do new
So-
employees still
Well, they're
get a
changing.
pension?
Well, yeah, they do.
Okay.
They're changing as they negotiate or renegotiate the labor contracts. They're changing or attempting to change the basis of the pension to make it more affordable on the taxpayers.
Okay.
But that's just a drop in the bucket. I mean, that's just new employees. That doesn't really have much impact on anything, and unless you go 20 years out or 30 years out, which is important, but it doesn't solve the immediate problem while
No.
you and I are alive.
No.
So all I wanted to do tonight was to introduce, watch this hedge,
Okay.
introduce a preface to an introduction to a preface about the pension plan, because this may come up at a council meeting in the next month or so. Certainly Vinny Testa said on the record at a recent council meeting that he wanted to raise this. I think actually the town administration would like to come in front of the council and present what's going on. So in view of that context,
Okay.
I just wanted to throw out some stuff as the beginning, of a discussion. The Wallingford Consolidated Pension Plan, unlike state of Connecticut's pension plan, the Wallingford pension plan is doing okay. It is a pay-as-you-go system, basically, meaning the money that the pension trust gets in from employee contribution, because they contribute to the pension fund, and the employer, the town of Wallingford, contributes. You add those two contributions together with interest and dividends and earnings on the investment, and that covers the cost of benefits, give or take $1 million. But so far, the cash flow has been positive, meaning we can pay those benefits, and those benefits are more than covered by the employer contributions and the earnings, interest, and dividends. The rub is the contribution has gone up, as we just illustrated, $3 million and change to $7 million and change over 6 years. So that's a mill, over that period of time. So the cost is going. Actually, I did write it down. 6.3 million was the actual payment in 2016. The mayor wants 7.2 for this current budget. And it was in 2008, I went back further. In 2008, the actual employer contribution was 2.8 million. So that shows you the growth from 2.8 million in 08 to possibly 7.2 in this coming year, a big growth. So how long can we go on this pay-as-you-go system? And so you pay as you go without touching the corpus, without touching the fund balance, if you will, in the pension. How long can you go? Maybe forever, probably 100 years on a pay-as-you-go system, because you just cover your costs. Meanwhile, the pension fund grows with the market. There's a comment at a recent town council meeting that the pension fund has in it about $185 million. That's a lot of years of worth of pension contributions. So I looked at the numbers. I don't think Wallingford has any real problem on the liquidity. The pension fund, it's not on the verge of going bust. It's pretty strong. It's pretty good. Pay as you go. It seems to be working. Now another facet, not the other facet because there's many, is what is the performance of the pension fund? And I said, just by my own personal opinion, I give it a C+ or something. Okay. But some very specific numbers. At the beginning of fiscal year 2011, so I'm going back that period of time, the fund balance on the pension trust is 132 million. By 2016, which is the last audited number, it was 172. So from I'm going to round it up, 132 to 172, it grew. And all that while, we were paying out benefits. So it wasn't like we're on the wrong side of the curve and the pension fund balance is going down. No, we're paying the benefits and the pension fund balance is going up. And the last comment was it went from 182 to basically 185 today. I mean, that was intended to be a current number. So is that good or is that bad? Well, I mean, that's another 2 or 3 shows or something. And
but good or bad is judged on the rate of return of investment, right?
Yeah.
And I just wanted to make sure
Absolutely.
That's how we're judging it. And we have a large pool of money here that's invested, and And usually, like I said, it's judged by the rate of return each year. Do you have that?
Yes, well, I sort of have that,
Okay.
but I prefer to approach it
Okay, good,
another
good,
way. But
good.
I'm going to ask you to keep a couple balls in the air.
No, I'm sorry.
I'm going to ask you a couple balls in the air at the same time.
Good.
Back in 2011, the fund balance was 131 million, 132 million. If we decided that we needed some of that in cash, just because we needed some of that in cash in case the market crashed and we needed to sell at a loss or something, and we invested 120 million, keeping roughly 11 or 12 million in cash. If we invested 120 million in Vanguard's S&P 500 index fund,
Right.
so we wouldn't invest all of it, just 120 out of 132. If we invest 120, based on the performance of the Vanguard S&P 500 index fund, we would have had 237 million today. 237 million is compared to 185.
Right.
Now, you can say, well, we don't want to, here we get into complications and show after show after show and an endless debate. People, well, we wouldn't want to put all our money in, in the largest companies listed on the New York Stock Exchange that yield about 1.9%. Oh, no, we wouldn't want to do that. We want a lower rate of return. We want to make sure we end up with 185 million rather than 237 million. So our investment strategy is to guarantee we're going to end up with 185. Guarantee is too strong a word, but you
Right.
get my rhetorical flourish.
Right.
We want to make sure we end up with 185 million rather than 237 million. And so that's the deal. The pension trust from 2011 to the last audited fund balance, which was June 30, 2016, from 2011 to 2016 grew at 31%. The S&P 500 grew at double that rate. That does not include dividends. So if dividends are reinvested, we come up to this 237 million number. So there are extreme consequences on your investment plan, your investment strategy. That certainly complicates things, and there's a lot of folks out there that when they hear stock market know that's gambling. I'll put it under the mattress. The problem is if Wallingford puts everything under the mattress or at a rate of return that is so low in the interest of being conservative, you're going to have to increase your taxes because the growth of the fund is so mediocre. One last point, and then I want to get onto another topic, but and one of the reasons why I think public entities are so timid or so cautious, some would say conservative, it's not, well, it is partly market risk and interest rate risk, but it's also headline risk. The headline of the Record Journal, if the market has a pullback. Now, market has a pullback, I suppose an enterprising reporter could sort of figure it out and say, Wallingford lost 40 million today. Well, they haven't lost anything unless you're compelled to sell at a loss. But I think that strikes terror into the hearts of comptrollers and financial officers, just that headline. So to prevent the headline, they have more conservative, I don't like that word because I think investing in bonds is radical. So they have more cautious investments.
Right.
And that protects against the headline risk, and it also costs you millions of dollars, millions and millions and millions of dollars in a fairly short period of time. Your thoughts?
Well, just a
Yeah,
question.
sure.
Usually in the public sector,
Yep.
companies have, they bring in experts to tell them
And
how
we
to
have
invest.
Wallingford has
Okay,
one.
but usually, isn't it to the benefit of those folks to grow your, I'm not saying to take risks, but isn't it to their, aren't they motivated to try to help you grow the fund as much as they can?
Well, they take, they don't set the investment policy.
No.
The government entity, the investing entity sets the investment policy, and the investment entity will take advice from these experts. But in the end, it's what helps you sleep at night. There's some individual investors and individual investors that just can't bear the thought that they could wake up one morning and the Dow Jones is down by 100 points. They just can't bear that. And they look at their account and then, in one day, I make up a number, they've lost $1,000 in one day. They just cannot stand that. And they say, I would rather have it in a CD, and if I have to retire in poverty, I'll retire in poverty. But the consequences of that choice need to be fleshed out. It is never going to be fleshed out in an honest, open, and fair conversation with real alternatives as long as we have the mayor we have.
Right.
It's not going to change. I'm just wanted to introduce some
Okay,
issues,
good.
so if it pops into the paper, we've got a little bit of a head start on what's going on.
Okay, good.
All right? We are overdue, Ralph, in talking about charter revision.
Yes.
There's an interesting development back, well, I'm looking at April 8, which was the Record Journal article, and the headline starts this way: panel wraps up charter review. That's a charter revision,
Right.
charter revision panel. And by the way, this is sort of a complicated story, and I've got about 15 minutes left, so I may need to rush through it, but I hope not. But the story
Good.
may not end
Right.
where you think it's going to end.
Okay, go ahead.
So you gotta
I got to pay attention.
you got to pay attention,
Okay.
and if I garble my words and I get my thoughts
right.
tangled up, you got to
All right.
stop me and and back up. But the story on April 8th starts this way. It says the Charter Revision Commission concluded its year-long review of the town charter Thursday by voting to submit a draft to the town council, as they're obligated to do, and the town council has an opportunity to act on it and recommend changes to their recommendations. The draft includes modest revisions to the town's governing document, last changed in 1989, and the basis for the word modest is because most of the changes made were very benign, gender and just non-controversial changes that everyone sort of agreed to. Issues like the town clerk being appointed by the mayor rather than the council, that's low-hanging fruit. That's been a consensus on that for the longest time. So Steve Knight was correct when he came on the show, back earlier this year. These are non-controversial
Right.
changes. So they finished their work. Charter Revision Commission Chairman Steve Knight said the goal was to modernize and update the document while not making change for the sake of change. Okay, I think this is Matt Zabirek who wrote that.
Right.
Yeah. But the plot thickens.
It does.
Yes, it does. The
This is where I gotta pay attention.
Yeah, the plot begins to thicken.
Okay.
And it says, prior to approving the changes, two commission members, Jim Seichter and Gina Morgenstein, suggested revisiting the most debated issue, expanding the Public Utilities Commission from 3 to 5 members. Jim Seichter, of course, is chairman of Planning and Zoning Commission, good guy, a lifelong Republican.
Absolutely.
I mean, and Gina Morgenstein ran as a Democrat for town council and wasn't successful. But politically, I'd say they're the polar opposites.
Right.
And here they are, coming together on a proposal
Right.
to maybe expand the PUC, subject to what the voters wanted, from 3 to 5.
And I add with good reason, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because the Public Utilities Commission, as we talked about on the show, with 3 members, went through a period where they had trouble having 2 members.
I'm going to get to that.
Okay, good. Okay.
I'm going to get to that.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So Jim Seichter said, according to the article, while he originally opposed expansion from 3 to 5 members, he felt differently last week after seeing the PUC's budget for 2017, 2018, totaling around $92 billion.
No.
92 million, it feels like 92 trillion, 92 million, seriously,
Okay.
$92 million. Jim Seichter said, I think 5 would be a much more appropriate number given the weight of that commission and responsibilities, Seichter said. After about 10 minutes of discussion, Steve Knight took an informal poll asking commissioners whether they want to open the topic up and have a more thorough discussion. 6 of the 10 members present said they did not want to revisit the issue, and the commission did not continue the discussion. And then we have a vote, and it was a 6-4 vote. 6 people saying, let's stop the discussion, killing that. I'm going to come back to this vote.
Absolutely.
I've got to come back to the vote. But I want to quickly fast forward ahead to a column that Larry Morgenstein wrote about this issue. And he goes back to 2009. And I'm going to draw a link between these two things, so you just got to bear with me. But in one of the paragraphs that Larry Morgenstein wrote, he said that the composition of the 2009 Charter Commission was challenged as unfair. Now, I gotta say that my fingerprints are on that
Yes.
decision because I was chairman at the time.
Right.
Yes, I'm somewhat familiar with the rhetoric. The mayor did not get to pick any committee members, giving the Democrats a one-member majority on the Charter Revision Commission. Quote from Stephen Knight back in '09, the problem, says Steve Knight, if the town council followed that pattern, the Democratic majority knew there was no way they could get the commission to do their bidding and recommend the power-diluting, power-shifting changes they sought. Solution, they limited appointments to just the town council members, and they thus had a 5-4 advantage on the Charter Revision Commission. I'm paraphrasing here. And so the solution, they limited appointments to just the town council members. Okay? So now let's fast forward to now,
All right.
2017. The town council asked, according to Larry Morgenstein's column, the town council asked the PUC, asked the Charter Revision Commission if the PUC could be expanded to 5 members. He writes, the PUC had been operating shorthanded with one longtime member ill. In fact, PUC meetings in 2015 were canceled 10 times. In 2016, canceled 9 times. Also, the PUC with the Wallingford Electric Division has been embroiled in a lawsuit, and, you know, we reported on that lawsuit, so I won't continue reading. So that's some of the context. Now let's go back to the vote, the 6-4 vote. 2 of the 6 that voted to discontinue considering the issue of expanding to 5, 2 of those were mayoral appointments. If they were not there, it'd be 4-4, and there was one member who wasn't present, and that poor person would have to break this tie if the clock was wound back. So the issue becomes, what about the legitimacy of those 2 mayoral appointments? And my finding then, and it is now, those 2 mayoral appointments should not have been made because the mayor had no authority under the Connecticut state law to appoint anybody to the Charter Revision Commission. I'm going to stop here, take a breath, take a drink of water, and give you a chance to sort of weigh in and backfill anything that I missed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why is the mayoral? Why isn't the mayor appointing people, his power, his authority, or lack of,
Yeah.
covered by the town charter? You just said, I thought you said
It's
state law.
state statute.
State statute
State
covers
statute.
charter revision.
State statute, yes.
I did not know that.
In great detail. And the state statute is quite clear that it's the town council, not the town council and a draft pick to be named later, not the town council and the mayor. The state statute is quite clear. It's the town council that has the authority to appoint charter revision members. The mayor has no business under the statute doing that. So if you take away 2 of the mayoral appointments, that would be Pat Cole and Mr. Piscati, you take away those 2 appointments, the vote on the expansion of the PUC could have turned out completely different. But this is evidence of the ability of the mayor to weigh in on and put his thumb on the scale and have a result which the mayor wanted very badly. The mayor did not want the PUC expanded from 3 to 5.
Well, what was the council? So the council's not able to then designate others to appoint commissioners.
No. And here,
Because is that what happened? Is the council?
No.
No.
no, the
So-
mayor, you look at the minutes of the town council meeting, the mayor appointed 2 members to the Charter Revision Commission. The mayor appointed them. They're listed as mayoral appointments. Those appointments were contrary to law, illegal, against the statute, uncalled
And
for,
no one-
without authority.
Right, and no one questioned it.
Why would they? They have the mayor, claiming a right to it back in '09.
Right.
The chairman of the town council at the time, Mike Brodinsky, continually referred the Record Journal reporters to the statute. They didn't really want to report the statute. because the demagoguery was much more interesting. But whenever I was asked, well, why are you doing this? Are you being political? Are you being political? I'm following the statute. Here's the statute. No one was really interested in that. Certainly not the mayor, not Steve Knight, and not the Save the Charter crowd, who are very vocal. But that statute is still in existence, and the argument still stands. It's the town council and the town council only. And so they made a critical mistake, the town council, by one, going on the record and saying, yeah, the mayor's going to get 2 appointments, and then working it out that way, which, would it make a difference? Well, we see here in the case of the PUC, potential expansion absolutely could have made a difference.
I'm surprised no one challenged it.
Who would, though? Who would ever challenge that? Republicans certainly aren't going to challenge it. Mayor's not going to challenge it.
Democrats?
Well, they didn't.
Okay.
Because I don't think they had the stomach for that, and they would have lost anyway. And I think everyone was in a kumbaya moment.
Okay.
Let's just do this peacefully, and let's not cause a fight. And the state statute we can ignore. We don't have to fight. We'll just look the other way and buy peace, and everybody's happy. But Section 7-187 clearly says the appointing authority for the Charter Revision Commission is the council. Now, if I needed expert help with my view, I know where to get it, and it would be the darling of the right wing, now Supreme Court Justice Gorsuch, who is known to be what they call a textualist, an originalist, and a textualist. And I'm going to just read a couple of things here. I'm not making this up, but we know what a textualist is, and someone who follows the plain meaning rule. A textualist like Justice Gorsuch, darling of Rush Limbaugh and Sean Hannity, and the guy Gorsuch is following in the footpath of Scalia, Antonin Scalia. Gorsuch would come here and say, well, let me read the statute. Oh, it says council, it means council. Doesn't say council and mayor. That's not the statute that the legislature passed. Maybe you, Steve Knight, and Bill Dickinson, maybe you would have wished they passed another statute, but you didn't. They passed this one. Now you got to live with it. It's the council. So Gorsuch would be sitting right here, and he would say, I'm sorry, but those 2 people, Pescati and Cole, are not properly seated. And if you get an appeal quickly enough, those 2 people would have to go. So what's a textualist or textualism? It's a method of statutory interpretation. This is a well-respected website, and it is, they put it pretty succinctly. Textualism is a method of statutory interpretation whereby the plain text of a statute, the plain text like council, not council and mayor, is used to determine the meaning of the legislation. Instead of attempting to determine statutory purpose or legislative intent, textualists adhere to the objective meaning of the legal text. Plain meaning rule, which Gorsuch follows, according to all reports. He's a textualist and a plain meaning guy. Textualism is consistent with the plain meaning rule. The plain meaning of a word is determined by its dictionary definition, its placement in the body of the text, and its common usage at the time. A judge that relies on the literal or plain meaning of a text does not consider other extraneous sources. If the statute is clear, meaning is plain, that's where you go, even if that means the mayor doesn't get 2 picks. That's what Gorsuch would say. I wish I could get him here on the show. I wrote him a letter. I gave him a call. He's just too busy to weigh in on this difference of philosophy. It's not a difference of philosophy. It's what's right and wrong, really, on the Wallingford Charter Revision issue. Go ahead.
Well, no, I think that, this is, I think that there was an attempt at the outset of this Charter Revision Commission to trumpet that this was not going to be political.
Yep.
And that got me, one thing as a journalist over the years, I haven't learned much, but I've learned that when people are saying that they're trying not to make things political, they generally end up being really political.
Well, they say we're not being political so they can be political
Right.
without being called out on it.
Right, and the other thing too is
yeah.
when people are going their own course, or the course that they think is correct or that benefits them and their friends, they don't find that political. It's when
That's right.
someone else goes another route, the way they think is right, and maybe benefits their supporters, see, that's political to them. But their own actions are never political. And, you know, so I was suspicious about this process, and in the end, I think you got evidence of politics in this process.
So I've got just a couple minutes left,
yeah.
but one of the points that I think that Larry Morgenstein was trying to get at when he wrote his column is, and I'm going to put my own veneer on it. It's just, I don't want to put words or intent in sort of,
Right.
in his mouth, but my own veneer on that. And in cases of close calls, where, for example, you have a bipartisan effort on the Charter Revision Commission, 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats saying we should discuss this,
Right.
and it's a 6-4 vote with one person not there, if it's a close call, maybe the duty of the Charter Revision Commission is to say, this is a close call, maybe the voters have a role in this,
Right.
maybe we shouldn't choke off this proposal, especially one that has merit, choke it off in committee.
Right.
Maybe we trust the voters enough and we frankly educate them on both sides of the argument. We know the mayor is very adamant, he feels very, very deeply, and we know that many of them on the Charter Revision Commission, or some, may feel allegiance or an affection for the mayor, but their duty transcends that, and it's first to the voters, and if you see a close call on this, maybe that's the time to say, you know what, maybe we should put it on the ballot,
Right.
make our case to the public. If the public doesn't want 5 people on the Charter Revision, so be it. It's only one question, for God's
Right.
sakes, Your thoughts on that?
Well, it's sometimes you would look to the chair or the vice chair to recognize that and bring things forward. And
Yeah.
in this case, and I'm sorry, I should know this, but did the vice chair make some attempt to bring this forward?
Well, I think that was Christina Tata,
Yeah.
who wanted this,
Right.
this
So I
expansion,
just
or
wanna-
wanted to discuss the
Yeah,
expansion.
I just want to commend
Yeah,
her for trying to bring this forward, because I think that's what you do as a chairman or a vice chair.
yeah.
If you're not being political, you do it that way.
Well, that's the end of my saga.
Well, it was good.
Neil Gorsuch, I'm afraid, cannot be here to back me up. I refer anyone to the statute, and let's call it a day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, want to thank Christine Mansfield and Bob Devaney for
Yeah.
coming on the show, and thank you all for listening to Citizen Mike Show. We're here in the studio on Wednesdays, but I got to watch Citizen Mike Show on WPAA on Thursdays at 9 o'clock, Fridays at 9 o'clock. If you go to the WPAA website, WPAA.TV, get on their website and scroll down to, there's a local producers button. Click on that button in the Citizen Mike Show. There's a business card there, sort of, and get on that button, and the Citizen Mike shows are displayed in front of you, along with a lot of other WPAA shows. Click that anytime after the show is produced, and you got it. After that, Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday at 9. Hey, if it's 9 at night, it's Citizen Mike. Good night, everybody.